What was a loophole that you found and exploited the hell out of? Story 1, I used to play a lot of backgammon in Yahoo games, and some people were real jerks when losing. Most commonly, they'd stall the game by taking the maximum 5 minutes per move, hoping I'd resign. I learned a way to boot these people off Yahoo for as long as I wanted by trying to log into their account. When I used the wrong password 10 times, the account was locked for 24 hours. They couldn't log in again until I chose to allow it. Story 2. Around 5 years ago, I used to work as a sales rep at a cell phone booth. Every new smartphone that would be released, the wireless provider would usually send us a demo unit of that phone with a demo line. The demo line would have unlimited talk, text, and data, but would deactivate after 2-3 months. This was so we could show customers how the phone works with all of its features. One time we got a demo line that didn't expire after 2-3 months. So my manager at the time told me to use it as my work line. I didn't want to carry two cell phones, so I canceled my personal line and used my work line as my personal one too. Fast forward 1 year later, my manager was transferred to another store and we got a new manager. New manager has no idea about my work personal line. I left the company 6 months later with my demo line, and to this day I still use this demo line. Have not had a cell phone bill for over 5 years and counting. Story 3. This past semester, I needed to take a biology class with a lab to graduate. I was told that it was one of the easiest classes at my school to take, but as a lit type, I didn't agree much. It was so much information all at once, and I found it really boring. So I didn't do so well on the tests or assignments. I got C's and D's, even on the final, which I stayed up all night to study for. We also had a class blog. There were about 120 of us, and we each had to write 3 posts per semester on anything biology related. I didn't do well in the lab section either. I failed the multiple choice test and the practical, and I assumed I was screwed. However, the professor said that if we made comments on our peers' blog posts and turned in worksheets to show what edits we made, when, and on what topic, we could get 5 extra points per edit. Most kids did 2 or 3. I did 97. Got an A for the semester. Story 4. A long time ago, Hostess Chips was the major brand in Canada at the time, had a Mario Bros. Promo. You got a bingo card in each bag of chips, and every card was a winner. You had to scratch 3 of 9 areas, and if you matched the icons, you won. One of my friends figured out that using a tin can with a tiny hole punched in the bottom and then dropped down onto a 100 watts light bulb, you could see through the card and find the winning spots to scratch. This spread around town, and a week later, there wasn't a single bag of chips to be found anywhere, sold out all over town. We all had garbage bags of open chips around. I won one grand prize, which was a Super Mario Bros. Game. Story 5 back, when Hollywood Video was around, they would guarantee new releases to be in stock. If they rented out all of their copies in the store, then they would give you a voucher for a free rental. I was in college at the time and would go into the store near my college campus at around 10 p.m. on a Friday night. There was simply no way for them to have any copies left by that time, so I would collect whichever vouchers were available. Rinse, repeat. Cheaper than Redbox. In a similar vein, a Blockbuster Video near my house had a giant gumball machine near the cash register that had special gumball-sized plastic orbs that instead had a free movie/game rental. So for 25 cents, you had the chance to win a $4.99 rental. Well, this was around for my entire childhood, till one day I walked past the machine and noticed it was almost empty, and it looked like the remaining ratio of gumballs to free passes was like 3-1. When they first filled the machine years ago, apparently the employees just tossed all the passes on top and barely mixed it up. I came back with a stack of quarters, and for $1.10, I got like 17 free rentals and 23 gumballs. The rentals lasted a few months, the gumballs lasted a few days. Story 6. Back in college, we found a loophole with coupons at Kroger for General Mills cereal. If you bought 4 boxes of cereal, each box was $1. But if you did the self-checkout, you would be printed out a coupon for $4 off your next purchase. We used the loophole to buy about 300 boxes of cereal. We only spent $12 on all of it. We would have spent less, but we had to go to another Kroger once the manager got wind of us. We kept around 20 boxes for ourselves and donated the rest to the local food bank. They were so excited when we showed up with 3 vehicles full of cereal. Totally worth the $12 and all the time it took. Story 7. This is fairly minor, but several years ago, 7-Eleven ran a promotion where all of the Big Gulp cups had a sticker on them that had some kind of prize on them. The sticker had those little wavy blue and red lines that you had to look at through 3D glasses to read, so in theory, you had no idea what you had won until the clerk looked at it at checkout. Most of the prizes were crap. stuff like 25 cents off of a sketchy hot dog. But one of the prizes was a free big gulp. So if you got that one, your big gulp was free. I memorized the pattern of blue and red lines, fished through the cups until I got the right one, and got free soda pop for about 2 months until the promotion ended. Excuse me while I go check my insulin. Story 8. There's these 3 Dunkin' Donuts in my area that let you buy coffee cards. Basically, you pay $200 for the card and can come through any part of the day, however much you want a day, and get any size coffee for a year. Well, my mom bought one last year and it had expired. She bought another one this year and it looks exactly the same as the old one. They took no effort into changing the card at all. So my mom gave me her old one, and I get free coffee whenever I want. Edit. They're not scannable cards or gift cards. It's literally just a pink piece of paper in the shape of a card that has the Dunkin' Donuts label on it and the locations where it's valid and a manager's signature. It does have the date it expires on there, real small, but they have never once checked my card. They only asked me to flash it at them, so I guess the day they asked to inspect it, the jig is up. Story 9. My university requires that you change your password every few months or so. The new password can't be the one that you've used in the past. Naturally, this sucks, because I have to remember yet another password, but you forget your password and reset it. It can be anything, and it counts towards changing your password. I've had the same password for my entire college career. Story 10. There used to be an electronics store called Hastings, where I grew up, that sold both new and used electronics. They had a deal that if you traded in 3 used games of a common type, example all PS2 games, you could get a brand new game for free. No strings attached, just free, any game of that system. So I would go into the store, buy 3 incredibly cheap used games, Base Pro Hunting or whatever it was called for $5, they had dozens, and then walk out, double back, and then trade those in for a $60 brand new game. I did this constantly for a few months while being harassed by the managers there until they stopped the promotion. Story 11. In elementary school, we had the Accelerated Reading AR program. You would read a book, take a test on the computer, and be awarded points based on how well you did. At the end of the year, you could buy things at the bookstore with the points you accumulated. I had just finished reading Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban and got a perfect score on the test. The computer was only supposed to allow you to take the test once, but I figured out you could take that specific Harry Potter book unlimited times. I racked up so many points and was never found out. Story 12. In the 80s, Chuck E. Cheese's didn't shred the tickets you get out of their games and used to buy toys, candy, etc. My friends and I were biking one day behind a strip mall practicing our wheelies and jumps. We saw a worker throwing a garbage bag of tickets into the dumpster behind Chuck E. Cheese. We grabbed it and then started circling back about once a week. Garbage bags and garbage bags full of tickets. We were doing so well, one of my friend's parents got in on it. She would take the minivan behind there and have her kids load up. And this is why tickets are now shredded. I think I still have a huge stockpile of frisbees and stuffed animals in my parents' attic somewhere. Story 13. I was in 10th grade when rubrics had recently been made mandatory for all school projects. The marks had to be bucketed into different mandatory categories, and teachers were still getting the hang of it. For science class, we had to construct a leaflet for the endangered animal we were assigned. I was assigned the leatherback sea turtle, quite a majestic soft-shelled turtle, the largest of all turtle kinds. The rubric handed out with the assignment bucketed the grade equally into 4 categories: overall appearance, layout of leaflet, use of relevant images, and content. That's some bull crap, right? 3 categories dedicated to appearance, 1 category to content. So naturally, I ended up handing in a piece of construction paper folded in thirds, covered in nothing but glitter, turtle silhouette cutouts, and about 15 fancy pictures of sea turtles. There wasn't a single word on that leaflet, barring the construction paper letter cutouts forming the words leatherback sea turtle, pasted in an arch shape at the top of the leaflet. I got a grade of 75/100. Story 14. I hate having a great answer too late. I coach a high school team. We recently bought airfare with Spirit Airlines to take 9 students to a competition. 2 of the students canceled about a month out from the trip, and we had to replace them with 2 different students. Spirit Airlines policy, no name changes. Can't even pay a fee to change the name. The tickets are basically lost, so I have to buy new tickets. Spirit's customer service is overseas, and they plainly don't care at all about customer service because they don't actually work for Spirit, etc., etc. Except that Spirit Airlines does allow passengers to correct misspellings, and these folks don't really recognize nonsense names. So over 4 calls, I changed the names of the canceled students to the names of the new students, 2 letters at a time. No one at Spirit customer service made a note, because who would care? And no one ever noticed that the correct names during the intermediate steps were nonsense. Also, Spirit. Story 15. I spent 5 years on a U.S. Navy submarine. Every 2 years, we would do a 6-month-long deployment called Westpac. On my second deployment, I got boondoggled with a few other dudes. Basically, the boat goes out for deployment without us, and we got sent to attend various training schools in Pearl Harbor for the first half of the deployment, then catch a flight to meet the boat. So we watched the boat steam off and then caught a flight to Pearl Harbor. We showed up with our orders to check in, but there was some miscommunication and office personnel messed up. We aren't enrolled in any of our classes. We don't have barracks, meal chits, nothing. They had no idea we were coming. They give us something called a non-availability chit, which allows us to stay at any reasonably priced hotel on the government's dime. So naturally, we found a palatial estate a block away from Waikiki. We show up for muster the next day, and the PO more or less just told us, "Yeah, I don't want to see you guys again ever." We couldn't get a hold of our boat because it was underwater doing secret things. Shh! Once the yeomen got their crap on straight, they realized that our return plane tickets were already paid for and paper worked up, so they just said if we do it live. We were getting a per dime and having our housing covered by the Navy, never had to muster for work, never had to check in anywhere. On top of that, we were still collecting our normal pay and allowances, CPay, BAH, etc. for 3 months. I grew a beard, got high as hell as often as possible, learned to scuba dive, did some surfing, slept with a bunch of international tourists, went on pub crawls every weekend, did some hiking, and did lots of snorkeling. Woke up on the beach a few times with no recollection of how I got there. Best vacation ever. Thanks, Navy. Story 16. In college, I bought a pack of coupons for Hungry Howie's Pizza. It had 3 coupons for a free pizza. No other requirements. Just a completely free pizza. I would call and order my pizza, tell them that I had the coupon for a free pizza, show up and forget to give them the coupon every time. I always had it on me as a backup, just in case they did ask for it. But out of the 3 coupons, they only asked for it once. I kept using them for months until the coupons expired, which I'm sure they were looking for. I ended up getting a few dozen free pizzas out of them, which was great for a college student. Story 17. When my friends and I were in 6th grade, we were always looking for a hustle. We would collect our parents' empty soda and beer cans to return to the Safeway near us for a few bucks to buy candy. One day, they installed these big machines that automated the process, so the employees didn't have to manually count the cans. You would put your can in the machine through a wide tube, it would roll the can around until it read the barcode, drop the can into a locked storage bin inside, and you would repeat this until all of your cans were tallied. It would print a receipt that you would exchange for the cash amount of your cans at the register inside. My friends and I tied a can to the end of a stick, got the machine to read the barcode, and then pulled the stick out before the mechanism would force our can on a stick into its belly. We did this once a week and got about 20 bucks each time before we would get nervous and stop so we wouldn't get caught. Story 18. At a bar pool hall with my mates, I noticed a jukebox. This jukebox had tens of thousands of preloaded MP3s for people to take their pick. Late Saturday night is the pool tournament, and it was packed. I realized you could download an app for your smartphone and sync up with the jukebox, paying with credit cards, and choosing music on your phone. In the app, I found that with every new account made, you would get a free song of your choice to play. I made many throwaway accounts, and played SpongeBob's Campfire Song and Best Day Ever on repeat. I almost forgot. The grande finale was Raining Blood, Slayer, followed by Through the Fire and the Flames. Dragon Force never told a soul, until now. Story 19. This is the story of how I passed math and graduated from college. So my university was notoriously awful for their math program. They used my math lab, and it was just generally crap. I was terrible at math anyway. You had the option of testing out of classes. You would go to the testing center, pay $5 and take a test. So this was my plan to get my math credits. I'd go take the test, find out what I got stuck on, and then work on that type of problem until I understood how to do it. Then I'd go back and take the test again, so on and so forth. I probably took the test like 8 times in a semester. Finally, I passed that and got my math credit out of the way. The next semester, a new rule was implemented that you could only try and test out of a class twice per semester. Story 20. During the Gulf War, we had these pills that we were supposed to take that would supposedly protect us from nerve gas. As an NCO, I was required to have all of my troops take the medication. The medication was even labeled not fit for human consumption. So I would put a pill in my hand, hold it out, and then tell someone to take it. They would take it from me. Then later, when the officers asked me if everyone in your unit took the pill, I would answer yes. Our orders were that everyone has to take one pill a day. Our orders were not that anyone had to consume the pill. If I was asked, however, if they consumed the pill, I would have had to have honestly answered no. I think my commanders knew what I was doing, and that I was living up to the letter of the orders, if not the spirit. All the pills ever did was make people sick. No one wanted to consume it. Story 21. I was in Costa Rica at a casino, losing money left and right on blackjack. I left the table and went to find my buddy. It turns out he was playing casino poker, the kind where you play against the dealer. I'd never been interested in it before, but I was sick of losing at blackjack in Spanish. So I sat down and bet. I was freaked out the first time it happened because I didn't think it was legal. But all 5 players at the table would compare the cards in their hands before the dealer turned over his. This way we knew if we had a shot at winning with a straight or flush, which paid more, or should fold. I don't know if the dealer cared or could not understand English, but we all cleaned up at that table over the course of an hour or so. I walked away with over $1,000. Story 22. A number of years ago, Discover would run some extra high cashback promotions at certain retailers. One of them was Barnes & Noble, and they'd go as high as 10% cashback. At the same time, Discover would allow you to buy gift cards at a discount using your cashback balance, and they sold B&N gift cards at 10% off. The loophole was that Discover would credit you cashback on a purchase if you had your Discover card as your primary payment instrument on your B&N account, even if you didn't actually use it to make the purchase. Starting with cashback I had already earned from other purchases. I bought gift cards, went to B&N online, bought Nook ebook, one with the gift cards, and got cash back as if I had used my credit card. Every month for a couple of years, Barnes & Noble and Discover were basically paying me to buy ebooks. They stopped those promotions, so now I just use my cash back to buy stuff at Amazon. When I did have a Nook Simple Touch at the time, but even if I didn't, it was still worth it, because Nook books are a pubs, and they have trivial DRM that is easily cracked. Thus, even if I were a Kindle or Kobo or other user, I could still buy those Nook books, crack them, convert them as needed, and read on my chosen device. Story 23. I used to travel for work. I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, and worked in Boston. I'd book the same flights every week, out early Monday morning and back on the 5:30 p.m. flight on Friday night. But the thing is, I knew ahead of time that my return flight would be overbooked. In fact, it was usually so overbooked that they needed as many as 6 or 7 seats. And so they offered money/miles/flights as needed. Every Friday, I'd wait for them to make the first announcement, usually a voucher. Then the second announcement, probably a slightly larger voucher, double. But the third announcement, that's when they started offering the good stuff. I'd take that one, usually at least a round trip anywhere in the continental US. Sometimes they offered a flight and a voucher. And once or twice, they even offered a free trip anywhere in the world. Sweet. And then they'd book me a guaranteed seat on the next flight, which was never overbooked anyway. The best part was that I got on the same connecting flight as I would have if I had been on the 5:30 p.m. flight out of Boston. I didn't do it that way to scam them. It was the only connection available for either flight. I took that route 50 weeks a year for 2 whole years. I lost count of how many vouchers and free round trip tickets I accumulated. I even got calls from the frequent flyer miles rep telling me that I was exploiting the system and that if I persisted, I would have my miles taken away. I figured, what the heck? I earned maybe 2 free trips a year with miles. That was peanuts compared to what I got by simply taking advantage of their weekly kindness. They never did take away my miles. It all ended about a month before my Boston job was over. One Friday, the gate agent announced that anyone who wanted a free round trip ticket, in return for them giving up their seat, should see her at the podium. And then she followed it up with, "But not you, Mr. Tillerman, 35. Story 24. Back in my days, the internet wasn't invented yet. Using Google to check for plagiarism didn't exist. The times were much simpler then, and penny candy still cost a penny. In high school, I had an English teacher who apparently lost his desire to teach. He apathetically sat at his desk all semester long while we silently read books. There wasn't a book list. Any book was a quantifiable contender to a potentially great grade. All we had to do was write a book report to prove we read the book. The more book reports we wrote, the better our grade. I wasn't an avid reader, so I started writing imaginary book reports to books that didn't exist. My first book was called The Log Cabin by J.C. Freeling, a 19th century true life adventure of a mountain man named Ben Buchanan. He lost everything: wealth, family, and the desire to live. It wasn't until he moved to the wilderness that his life started changing for the better. He built a log cabin and became aware of who he really was and what he was about to become. My teacher liked my writing and gave me a B. He later praised me on the amount of books I read and how I was the top reader in his class. I even noticed he took a stronger interest in his students. Perhaps I was his log cabin.